This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome to our show, Too Good to Be True. This is our first episode, and we just want to start off by saying thank you to all the listeners and future listeners. Is everyone ready for a really exciting show about the underwater city of Cuba and its pyramids?
Before we get into the subject matter, we need to introduce ourselves and also explain a little bit about our show today and about future shows. Then we'll get into a discussion about the underwater city of Cuba with its pyramids and other structures.
So I'm Justina, and I'm particularly interested in the paranormal and in alternate explanations for historical events. I have been interested in the paranormal for a really long time, and in the last few years, I became more interested in alternate explanations for historical events. I avidly watch and listen to YouTube videos and read articles with alternate explanations to what we are led to believe. I'm also a psychic medium, and if spirit allows, I'm able to give psychic insight. The psychic insight is going to be combined with the research my dad and I have done on various subjects.
I'm Justina's dad, Pete. I'm particularly interested in why we are here and for what purposes. So ancient history is a big fascination. It really all started for me when I read Chariots of the Gods. I think that's Chariots of the Gods by Eric von Daniken. I don't have any psychic gifts, but read up on subjects that remain unexplained. I have read up and studied different topics for several years now.
With our interests having overlapped, we will be discussing subjects either one of us find interesting, plus others that might be suggested by other people or the listening audience. So this is basically a discussion with psychic insight that follows some investigation. We will first be discussing background information on the topic and then some theories about the topic. Then my dad will be asking questions and I will be replying with psychic insight. We will then try and interpret the psychic insight.
Now for some disclaimers about our shows before we get going on today's show. Neither of us claim to have any expertise in the subjects that we discuss. We aren't claiming that we're experts in any way. We relate in good faith information we find in books and on the internet and through psychic insight. So if listeners are knowledgeable on a particular subject, we will be delighted to hear from them. We both have scientific backgrounds, so we are open to new explanations, including both spiritual and psychic ones, as well as explanations that are part of human history that we are unaware of. New technology providing answers is usually fascinating.
Also, the show only lasts an hour. We don't have the time to present exhaustive research on any topic. There will be information that we miss, and we may have selected outdated reference material. However, the approach we have is to provide a basis for the psychic insight rather than to become academics.
We don't care if a theory turns out to be too good to be true, as the show name suggests. We're only interested in finding out more of the truth, even if it spoils a good story.
For example, it was said for a long time that it was impossible for bees to be able to fly based on their physics. It turns out that with high-speed photography, bees move their wings in different ways than first thought, and their wings actually provide enough lift. So there went a very good story about bees being these wonderful creatures, but with modern technology, it provided an answer.
Spirit can only relate everyone to insight that is appropriate for our time in history. So free will cannot be affected. This means that sometimes a topic will not include a full explanation, only comments that are appropriate for our time.
We have no control over what the spiritual insight can and cannot provide. It is like the prime directive in Star Trek, which is a good example.
Yes, Gene Roddenberry apparently used a psychic to help him with the series, and they certainly nailed the iPad and the flip phone.
We are only going to gain this insight for our time. with maybe Star Trek technology being a future show. But for now, let's assume there is a prime directive.
Okay, so you either believe in psychics or you don't. The output of psychic insight is obviously not in any way data that could be applied to the scientific method.
Assuming that there is belief in psychic insight, we are merely comparing what people may believe with accepted explanations.
We both want to know more about these subjects. Hosting a radio show just means that we have to be structured and organized when asking questions that may or may not have paranormal explanations.
And also, much of the subject matter in the shows will have already been covered again and again in other shows. We may want to look into subjects in a new, different way and be thought-provoking.
Should we get started with the subject of our first show? What are the Cuban underwater city? What is the Cuban underwater city, and what about those pyramids?
Dad, why did you choose this subject? I have briefly heard about the Cuban pyramids as part of the sunken underwater city, but it's probably not as popular as some other topics. I will probably choose the next one, so I'm interested in how much thought you put into this and why you decided on this topic.
Well, it started with the pyramids in Egypt. I didn't really believe in the official history. I didn't think that slaves with ramps and logs could have lined up quarried stone with the precision of a laser. So how could they achieve such perfectly dimensioned structures with those sort of tools? So I wanted to choose a related subject, one that included pyramids, but one that didn't seem to have been discussed too much.
And I think we'll stop there for now, and we'll continue after this commercial break about more about the underwater city of Cuba and an explanation of why, Dad, you chose this show.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
Welcome back to Too Good to Be True. And before the break here, we were discussing a little bit of why we chose this topic and going into subject matter of the underwater city of Cuba.
Yes, I was going on about the pyramids in Egypt being not really very well explained, and why I wanted to choose a subject that was not so obvious and perhaps was related, but anyway included pyramids. So there's plenty on the internet about the underwater city of Cuba and the pyramids, including a Wikipedia article and some YouTube videos.
We also don't want to give the impression that there is only one set of sunken artifacts in the world. There are many other sunken underwater structures across the world besides the underwater city of Cuba.
According to marine archaeologist Dr. Nick Fleming, at least 500 submerged sites containing the remains of some form of man-made structure or artifacts have been found around the world. Nearly a fifth of these sites are thought to be more than 3,000 years old.
An example is the Yonaguni structures of the Yonaguni island of Japan that include ancient architecture in the form of pillars, hexagons, stairs, avenues, arcades, and even a step pyramid. These are at the depth of about 25 meters or about 800 feet. These are thought to be remnants of an ancient city thought to be about 10,000 years old.
Yes, these were discovered by accident by divers, and scuba diving at this type of depth apparently isn't unusual.
There are also the reports of the crystal pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle, but these have been reported as a hoax.
So let's talk more about the underwater city of Cuba, as it has aspects that seem impossible to explain.
In 2001, Pauline Zielinski, a marine engineer, and her husband Paul Weinzweig, owners of a Canadian company called Advanced Digital Communications, worked on an exploration and survey mission.
Yeah, this was in conjunction with the Cuban government using sonar imaging. They reported what they thought were stone structures. They weren't looking for stone structures.
From the Spanish colonial era, many Spanish treasure ships had sunk around the Cuban coast, so it wasn't abnormal to be looking underwater for different structures in ships and things like this.
Yeah, this seems to be an excellent reason for exploring the ocean floor in that region. Presumably, they thought they could come up with some gold and treasure worth billions.
And to do this, they used sonar imaging, and this revealed structures that had the appearance of pyramids as well as other brown structures.
Yeah, these structures cover an area of 2 square kilometers, or that's about 0.8 of a square mile. And these are located off the western tip of Cuba at depths of 600 to 700 meters, which is about 2,000 feet.
Yes, and when these different structures were found, it wasn't by video as we know it, but by graphical interpretation using computer software to interpret reflective sound waves.
Yeah, some experts question whether the images were real and that they could have been open to interpretation.
And just kind of on a related subject, is something similar, ultrasound is used on expected mothers. Nobody seems to question images of Princess or Junior as they are projected on a screen in a doctor's office.
Yeah, I looked up sonar image or imaging sonar, and it's a high-frequency, narrow field of view underwater sonar that produces video-like acoustic imagery. And I think we know about sonar from old World War II movies where you're sending sound waves and getting reflections. But anyway, this imagery can detect and identify submerged objects of interest, even in low to no visibility conditions. Systems are used by responders to inspect ships' hulls as well as pier and bridge pilings. These images are used to direct divers to objects of interest, track divers underwater, and search for underwater obstructions ahead of vessels.
Good job with the explanation there, and we apologize for all the extra details. But to sum it up, sonar imaging seems to be a reliable means of helping divers and taking images of what's underwater.
Yeah, industrial underwater diving is a very dangerous profession, so sonar imaging has to be reliable. Otherwise, it wouldn't be used, and there would be some other techniques.
And below 200 feet in the ocean, there's no light from above. So unless cameras have their own lights, there's nothing to see.
So just going on about sonar imaging, for about $1,000, you can purchase now a combined sonar imaging system with GPS for fish finding.
So for now, this is freely available and well-used technology, and you could even purchase your own and go find some fish.
Returning to the underwater city, Paulina Zalitsky thought it might have been an urban center.
And National Geographic senior editor John Escasevy, apologies for butchering anyone's names, called these structures, quote, interesting anomalies, but claimed no expertise in sonar imaging and stated that until they are seen directly, it would be difficult to characterize them.
Yeah, I'm sorry about it. We should have included pronunciation in our list of disclaimers. But anyway, you would have thought that John would have conferred with a sonar imaging expert before commenting in public on behalf of a major international publication. You would have thought he'd have got talking to an expert.
And the video imaging isn't unusual. Video imaging at a depth about 12,500 feet was made possible for the wreck of the Titanic. And this was a project that was headed by Professor Robert Ballard.
So, Robert Ballard became very famous through the discovery of the wreck of the Titanic. That's why I'm mentioning him quite a bit. Ballard engineered a new unmanned submersible, Argo, that could explore wider areas, dive deeper, stay underwater for many weeks. Also, Argo delivered crisp and clear pictures of what it found.
Professor Ballard was talking about the underwater city of Cuba, and he was reported as saying it was too deep and he'd be surprised if it's human. Then he rather dismissed sonar imaging, saying that you can often see what you want to see, just like an ink blot.
Yeah, Professor Ballard is a noted public figure, if reported correctly. Suggesting non-human artifacts is rather incredible.
Well, then he rather dismisses the images that appear to be clear enough in various YouTube videos.
Yeah, Cuban marine geologist Manuel Iturralde called for more data, but he also said the results so far were very unusual. He estimated it would take 50,000 years for the structures to be sunk to the depth of approximately 2,000 feet. He then stated the rather obvious that cultures of that age would not have the technology to create such structures.
British author Graham Hancock, who wrote the book Fingerprints of the Gods, which proposed that ancient advanced civilization existed on the Earth, studied the underwater city. He stated, and I quote, "What one would not expect to find in water anywhere as deep as 700 meters would be a sunken city, unless it had been submerged by some colossal tectonic event rather than rising sea levels."
So there is doubt surrounding what the underwater structures actually are, and if they really constitute an urban city, how could that city be submerged to a depth of 2,000 feet?
So now we're going to transition here into some questions and some answers about the psychic insight. And I think we also should take a moment here to tell our listeners where they can find information to contact us and also what times to listen. So to do this, you can go to xzbn.net and you can email us there, and you also can see times to listen to future shows.
Yeah, that's xzbn.net for those listening in Canada and Britain and other countries.
Let's not get too into that. Who cares if it's pop or soda? Otherwise, I will call you soda instead of pop.
Okay, I don't want to be called soda, so what I'm going to do is move on, and we're going to start asking the questions and getting the psychic insight. I guess a little bit of humor is good. We're not really in church. We're just trying to get to the truth. So I hope the levity is appreciated. Okay, just starting the first question that we came up with. If going to Mars is so important, if there are structures under the sea that could be 50,000 years old that could change history as we know it, why aren't these being explored more fully?
There is different technology hidden in these structures, which at this moment cannot be released to the general public. This technology is being hidden. The ancient civilizations have more advanced technology than humans are using now.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing. This raises all sorts of questions and possibly some conclusions. Are authors such as Eric von Daniken or Graham Hancock correct in their writings? It would seem so.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I would say that there's a lot of things on this planet we don't know too much about, and that there's a lot of different topics that we may be discussing in the future, that there's a lot of unanswered questions and some answers that are not getting to the general public.
Yeah, this is all despite history has taught to us never having involved, I guess, really ancient civilizations. I don't think it's fair to say it didn't involve ancient civilizations, but we're not talking 50,000 years ago in terms of building structures. And to say that they had more advanced technology than we have now would take some very significant explanation.
Well, and this also goes into the point that if technology is hidden in these structures that cannot be released to the general public, then logically part of the human population may be aware of it. So some people might be aware of actually what these are, but the general population is not hearing about it.
So advanced technology is apparently, just logically from this insight, is being hidden from us.
And that also goes into the point that there was more advanced technology than we have now available eons ago. So that brings up the question of why that advanced technology is not here today, and why we are being told that today is the most advanced that civilizations have been.
Okay, well, I guess it's a little reassuring that maybe there were civilizations that were more advanced than we are now. We apparently don't understand our own planet yet. What makes us think we can understand another? And that goes to all the talk about exploring Mars. Imaging techniques in outer space seem not to be questioned, but those under the sea appear to be.
The simple answer is to show in a way that life is not existing on Mars at this time. There are different ideas and information that the general public is not ready for. Ancient civilizations will provide answers to these questions that are still unknown and could cause commotion. If these ancient civilizations were studied in detail, then this would contain proof that other beings walked the earth and were established on this planet at one point. This is hidden since this would be actual proof and even scientific proof, since images could be taken and the technology and other ideas could be used. For a planet such as Mars, there are images of pyramids and other objects. However, these images are also said to not be real. These are images that the general public sees are the ones that make it clear, according to this image, that something didn't live there. You could say it's a veil in a way.
Well, that's a lot of information to take in. So we're being shown that life does not exist on Mars, which may imply that there was once life on Mars, and or maybe there is. It seems we're getting half the story and being directed to a conclusion.
Well, and that brings up the point too of what we're actually being shown to the public. And I just want to relate this into something that's been in the news, is that one of Saturn's moons has been said that there's possibilities that there was life on the moon. And they did this by looking for water and other signs of life forms. So it's interesting that we were being told that there might be life on other planets, but there has been no physical proof or nobody saying that life for sure exists.
Yeah. If we knew about ancient civilization, their technology, it seems our lives and maybe the economy would be disrupted.
And we'll continue on this after the commercial break.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
How would you like to be able to read other people's minds? Well, the next best thing is here. When you know how to read a person's name, you know how the person thinks, feels, and behaves. Each letter in our name holds a key to unlock our true essence. Our name contains both our gifts and challenges in this lifetime. Mnemology science discovers personality secrets hidden in the placement of the letters of our names, including the first and last impression people remember about us. Sharon shows us how to interpret the arrangement of letters as outlined in her book, Know the Name, Know the Person. Sharon Lynn Wyeth created mnemology science after 18 years of research and testing her theories, and has supported thousands of people around the world in understanding themselves and others better. You'll enjoy Sharon's unique teachings as she shares her system to learn the gifts behind your given birth name. Even if you don't like your birth name, there are jewels in this book. If you're thinking of changing your name, ready to name your child, or wanting to get along better with others, this is the book for you. If you'd like to improve your relationships and change your life for the better, get the book today, Know the Name, Know the Person, or visit www.knowthename.com. That's www.knowthename.com.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen. Welcome back to Too Good to Be True. And before the commercial break, my dad was asking some questions and we were getting some psychic insight and we were just responding to the psychic insight. So we were just talking about Mars and about if there's life on Mars.
Yeah, I guess what we were discussing was that we're sort of being given the impression that there's no life on Mars, although there's perhaps evidence that there once was life on Mars. Apparently, there's objects like pyramids and other things. I think a spoon was one thing that was shown. And what we were also discussing was that that if there were or if there was confirmation that that there were extraterrestrial beings that had built structures on this planet thousands and thousands of years ago, then that would be perhaps disruptive to our civilization, to our economy. But it seems to be a matter that the powers that be, as I call it, if they have this information, believe that we're not ready to know the truth.
Well, and that brings up the interesting point of the fear that technology is going to be too powerful for society. So you've seen movies about robots taking over or technology taking over. So I think there's always an underlying fear that in the mass population that technology is already going too far. So that brings up the point of what's too far with this technology and what is too far of advancements that can be made.
Yeah, so just that one psychic insight raises a whole bunch of questions. So I'll go on to the next question for psychic insight. Why is it that after 2001 the whole subject disappeared off the news?
This is hidden so that the scientific proof does not get to the general public, since this could prove that aliens and other beings exist, and this is not being brought to the public's attention at this time. A lot of information is being hidden to hide that other beings in the galaxy exist, since it is being told right now that we are the only proven beings in the galaxy, and aliens and other dimensions and other life does not currently exist.
Well, this is really fascinating. This implies that scientific proof of extraterrestrial beings will be in the future brought to the attention of the general public. And that's, I believe, is referred to as disclosure. And that's a whole subject on it to itself.
So from this psychic insight, it's also that there might be other beings to think about, not just in other galaxies, on Mars, other planets, but maybe other dimensions. And that's another different topic.
Yeah, maybe we should go back to that subject, alternative or parallel universes, alternative dimensions, in another show. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Why are experts making apparently superficial comments without having a conference on the subject, reaching conclusions and defining further work? That's what scientists do. Don't they get together, present data, and then argue the facts?
Basically, this goes back to the veil in hiding information from the general public. It's a cover, and ignoring that this exists is a simple solution for them at this time.
Apparently, part of the process of hiding information from the general public is to ignore the subject matter.
Yes, so if this information is ignored, then the perception would be that it doesn't exist. So it's kind of the idea that if you ignore something, it's just going to go away.
Yeah, and I believe commercials are 30 seconds long or so on television because of people's attention spans. So not being too unkind, perhaps it needs to be on some media channel 10 times a day and repeated for people to take any notice of a subject. That's how we seem to be presented with the news these days. So that's very, very interesting. Okay, I'll move on again. Do the powers that be think that people all over the world would just forget about these amazing findings if governments aren't interested in funding further research?
It depends on how much information is spread and how many people are interested in these type of topics. That is why it's so important to spread information.
Okay, I think there are at least two possible conclusions. The underwater city and other undersea structures could be forgotten unless there's enough interest in investigating their origins. And it's important to spread information. Therefore, this topic for a radio show must be a good idea.
Yes, and I also think that information and the spread of information is becoming easier. So you can think of it about social media. And Dad, you obviously know more about this than me, since I've grown up in a time with lots of social media and kind of the information age. But before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was really hard to spread information. I mean, people had to write letters. It wasn't like today. Obviously, there was still TV. But now you can go on Facebook and a post might be spread millions of different times and to people all over the world.
Yeah, I think what it was growing up was there was only a few networks and there was the news and people got the same diet and we all sort of believed everything that we were given. And it was very, very limited. And if somebody said something read the 9 o'clock news, we just accepted it. And we all saw the same 9 o'clock news. Maybe different channels had small variations, but we were fed the diet. Okay. After more than 15 years, technology would have moved on. Isn't it high time to go back and take another look?
It depends on the people who basically are studying the different technology about how soon the technology will advance. For example, cars have been studied and there is technology that exists that runs cars on other fuel other than gas. But there has also been a stop on this technology because of money. There are also other factors in play too. Other beings in the galaxy could step in and help with the technological advances which could happen. However, this may also be stopped. This again is why the spread of information is so important, since when more people are investigating, more technology can be advanced and the technology can move forward.
Well, this has got lots of implication. The future sounds very exciting. The possibility of extraterrestrial beings helping us to develop our technology, if it isn't blocked, and maybe a show on Roswell and was there extraterrestrial technology that was back engineered would be something to discuss. But anyway, going back to the Prime Directive, once there is disclosure that extraterrestrial exists and that they are more advanced, then it's logical that the revelation of new advanced technology would just be a logical step without unduly influencing free will.
Well, and I also think this brings up a lot of other questions too about the interaction between other beings in the universe and then us. So it goes back to, are they trying to contact us? I know there's been different shows, there's been different people who claim that different beings have contacted them. And as you said, Roswell, alien encounters, I think we could have a bunch of different shows even on aliens trying to contact us, people's experiences and that kind of stuff.
Well, even the Vatican has said, and they've got an observatory in the United States, apparently. What they've said is that extraterrestrial beings are quite welcome to be baptized and welcomed into the Catholic Church, which sounds like I'm making it up, but I believe that there was a press conference to that effect. So if the Pope's prepared to talk about extraterrestrial beings, then I think we all should be. Okay, we're going to go on to some more direct questions. Is there a conspiracy to deflect attention from the real history of the world?
This has been alluded to in the previous answers, but yes, there's a lot of deflection involved. There's a lot of information that is still unknown about the history of the world.
As we plan more shows, hopefully we can bring attention to subjects that conventional history as taught does not seem to make any sense.
Well, and I just want to add too is that in history there's many different subjects. So what we get in the history books, there's been more things added today, and I feel like every single day there's more discoveries even in the scientific community of different historical events and even different scientific fact.
Yeah, when you're telling me about, I'll mess this up, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, that there was interbreeding and that we're kind of part Neanderthal in our genes, that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, so right now in the different communities is actually, I believe, National Geographic, which came out with these findings. And I'm going to butcher this name too, but Neanderthals actually were found that they actually bred with Homo sapiens, so humans. And they found, I believe it's 1 to 4% of people's DNAs today actually contain some of this Neanderthal DNA. So that's even an example of something that, biologists, different scientists didn't believe happened because they thought they were totally two different species, never bred, never interacted. And they actually found proof that in our DNA, they bred together and people today are a part of both species.
Okay, moving on. What are these structures? An urban center?
Yes and no. There were other structures too that were built for housing. The pyramids were for information and technology to be kept safe inside of them. This is much like the pyramids in Egypt.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's telling us that besides the pyramids near Cuba, that the pyramids in Egypt were or are repositories for information and technology. I don't think we got a clear idea what the purpose of the pyramids in Egypt is. I mean, we're told that they were sort of burial chambers and maybe used for storing grain or used for power generation, but I haven't heard repositories for information and technology. So who built them? Who built the underwater structures off of Cuba?
The civilization was built by beings from a different place that was once on Earth. They're originally from a faraway place and then ended up coming onto Earth.
So that supports the ideas of both Eric von Daniken and Graham Hancock that highly advanced civilizations existed on Earth many, many thousands of years ago. Why did they build them?
They are basically like the pyramids of Egypt, where they have the secrets of their civilization and other different technology, and this was also a place for the beings to live nearby. The pyramids were built in a way where they would not be destructed once they were sunk. This means the information in the pyramids could be kept safe.
So it appears that these pyramids and other structures were built in the knowledge that they would be sunk and then on purpose and then exist for thousands of years on the seabed.
Well, and this also brings up the topic that other things might be under the sea. So I don't know the actual statistics, but I know that a great percentage of the ocean actually hasn't been explored. So what do you think about that?
Well, that's why I'm wondering why we're spending all our time going to Mars or thinking about it. We haven't explored our own planet. And I'm wondering why we haven't been back to the moon. So it begs a lot of questions. So I'll just ask one more question. How old are they? 50,000 years or less, or even or less old, or even older?
They are older, more like 75,000 years.
Wow. Cuban marine geologist Manuel Iturralde provided the estimate of 50,000 years, which I think is an impressive estimate.
And I think we'll stop there for a commercial break and continue after this break.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A Soul Balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today, www.soulbalancing.world. There's a legend shared by many indigenous cultures of a time when the nations were cast to the 4 corners of the world. Each nation was given a body of sacred knowledge that held a different portion of the truth to preserve. True reality could not be known until all the nations reunited, combining the information. If a single one was missing, the world could not be reborn and darkness would prevail. The Science of Magic Radio is dedicated to reuniting the sacred knowledge. With the understanding, none of us has all the answers, but together we can open new perceptions and possibilities. Through our combined vision, the world can be reborn into a place where darkness no longer prevails. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic daily on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, xzbn.net, or visit us at thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome back to Too Good to Be True. And before the break, we were asking the question about the underwater pyramids and city off the coast of Cuba and about how old they actually are.
Yes, 75,000 years ago, according to the Psychic Insight, and there was also the estimate of 50,000 years from the Cuban marine geologist Manuel Iturralde. So perhaps we should talk about what life was like 75,000 years ago on Earth.
Well, about 64,000 years ago, the bow and arrow first replaced the spear thrower in Africa. So mankind's technology was, of course, very primitive.
Yeah, 75,000 years ago was in the Middle Paleolithic era. I butchered that, I'm sorry. In other words, we were in the Stone Age and probably in an Ice Age as well.
Well, and it's interesting to think about how mankind actually was, since based on the accepted history of mankind were hunter-gatherers when this underwater city was built. So it makes me wonder how this whole underwater city could be built with such precision and this technology that is so much more advanced when mankind was just hunting, gathering, and basically trying to survive.
Yes, so there's the obvious question, was there extraterrestrial help in building them?
Yes.
So extraterrestrial beings built these structures or helped build them. So that really confirms what we thought, that it would be impossible for people with bows and arrows and spears building structures such as these. So, okay, now I ask this question more directly. What was the nature of mankind when the structures were built?
There was mankind, but also other beings. So you can think of it as very different than today. It was a different time when humans were not as advanced as they were not always aware of what other beings were doing. It also depended on the rulers and if they accepted to acknowledge these beings or not.
So it sounds like Stone Age people went their own way and did not interact very much with extraterrestrial beings.
Yeah, it sounds like there was kind of a split. So there was the humans doing their thing, hunting, gathering, making sure they survive, making sure that they can, have offspring. And then there was these other beings that were building these cities and using their technologies. So it seems like there were different groups on Earth.
Yeah. So just changing the subject a little bit, are the crystal pyramids in the Bermuda Triangle a hoax?
No.
So that's got lots of implications. That suggests that the Bermuda Triangle has some interesting secrets that are more than a myth.
Yeah, and the Bermuda Triangle is a huge subject and one that I think we both would like to investigate more. So that might be a future show.
So yeah, just to be clear, I think the west coast of Cuba isn't in the area that's generally accepted to be the Bermuda Triangle, but it's not far away. Did a major global event make the structures sink, or did it happen gradually over the millennium?
It was a combination between the Earth and the beings. The Earth changed gradually and had an influence on what occurred. However, it was also decided by the beings that these structures would be sunk. The structures would be safer underwater.
So the Cuban underwater city was apparently deliberately sunk for safekeeping, for later in man's history to be discovered and to find information.
Well, this makes me wonder when the right time is going to be. So with these different scientists that investigated this early in the 2000s, maybe there will be a revisitation of looking at these underwater pyramids and city and seeing if we can get more information and maybe even getting some more clear images of the different city and pyramids and things down there.
Yeah, so Professor Ballard, as reported, was correct. The structures are too deep to be explained by conventional understanding of history. So I guess, as we talked about earlier, Professor Ballard went halfway and then sort of stopped, suggesting that the video or the imaging, I should say, may be open to interpretation. So do you want to summarize the psychic insight, or do you want me to, Justina?
I can summarize it. So to make a summary of the psychic insight about the underwater city of Cuba, the first point, it was the sunken city was built by other beings. So extraterrestrials, we don't know exactly who, but some other beings that are not human. It was also built 75,000 years ago. So this is related to the original estimate of 50,000 years. It was deliberately sunk. The pyramids within the city were designed to safekeep information and technology to such a time when the human race are ready to deal with the contents. Not only do we have to think of these other beings, these extraterrestrials, as I mentioned, but also life from other dimensions. And to return to the site and in technology, it would take the general public to be more interested than they are now in the news articles and information from 2001.
So do you think the explanation from the psychic insight is too good to be true?
I think that it depends on what people are prepared to believe.
Okay, now, so for now, there isn't a scientific explanation for the underwater city of Cuba and its pyramids. And we've only got what people believe. And maybe there's other psychics that may have some idea. I seem to remember one or two talking about Atlantis in some detail, but I don't remember any psychic talking about the underwater city of Cuba. But it could be out there, and I could be missing it. So, what do you think that? What do you think there's more to say about this subject, Justina?
I think that the main point about all this information is that there's a lot of different topics that there's these unexplained explanations about it. And if you think about even other places in the world where things are built, so I know you're interested in Stonehenge and things like that, is that there's different physical things on this planet and we don't know exactly how they were built or why they're built. And this relates back to even Egypt with the pyramids, is that scientists have tried to get explanations. But again, as you mentioned before, it would be almost impossible to build Egyptian pyramids like that today. So that brings back the point again that somehow in the past there was this other technology. And I think personally, putting my personal beliefs into it, is that I believe that there could be other beings existing out there. So that logically makes sense to me.
Yeah, what was your thoughts? We discussed the subject, obviously, and going into this, what did you think before you got the psychic insight? I just mentioned what I thought. I just thought that our conventional history is taught in schools and colleges was that man had a certain age and did certain things at certain times. I just saw it as that mankind perhaps had the ability, and it was lost. And I didn't really go into the thought that extraterrestrial beings were a big part of this. I just thought that it was like man was much more civilized and went into a dark age. So what were your perceptions going in?
My perception was kind of what you said, is that when we're raised and when we're growing up, we believe everything that's in a history book. And as I got older, I realized that different history books are different. So you can read 10 different history books and they only can teach you so much. So I think it's good for people to explore, research, and listen to different shows and explore this information, since there's a bigger picture here. I mean, there's a lot of information that's going into something. And this explanation, I personally think it makes more sense than that technology was just lost, because I feel like over time, humans are pretty good at documenting. I mean, they even found different cave drawings from cavemen that tried to document their lives. So I think as a society, we try to document every aspect of our lives and try to make sure that we don't lose previous information we already found out.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little older than you, inevitably, but what I can remember firsthand of events and how they're portrayed now in history books sometimes isn't exactly as I remember. I don't want to get into any sort of Mandela effect discussion, but it seems to me that well, history books can't be that I guess extensive. They have to be very succinct, but I would argue that some of the history that's gathered as we go along isn't necessarily what I recall it being. So I wonder what's been filtered, what we're actually being told. I mean, how are there parts of it that are obvious and are apparent that aren't just being related, not being recorded? And I love the dimension that we went into, dimension being the wrong word, that if something's ignored, it will go away. So if a subject isn't worthy of raising, then it doesn't exist. It seems to there seems to be a great understanding of human nature in that tactic.
Well, and I also want again to remind the listeners at home here that we have our website, xzbn.net, and listeners can go there and they can email us ideas for shows. So if listeners are listening right now and they want to hear about a subject, or they even have comments, I mean, we're open to any different comments about the show. We would love to hear input. So our emails are found there, and you also can find our times to listen. And we just want to emphasize that we want this to be a discussion with our audience. We don't want to just say everything and not have the feedback. So we would love to know what you think about this topic also.
Yeah, I mean, what do I know? I just read stuff and go to the internet and summarize it, and you help me with that. And well, there's going to be people out there that are going to say, "Oh no, they got that wrong. They didn't get that reference, or they didn't read that book." Well, we'd be delighted to hear where we're coming up short.
So at this time, I just want to thank all the listeners, and thank you for listening to Too Good to Be True.
Thank you.